All right, this is the game that I am most intrigued by for multiple reasons. Obviously, because the Texans face the Seahawks next, and the Jaguars are 4-1, and the Texans will face the Jaguars yet again. But really, it's Sam Darnold being on the same field as Trevor Lawrence. As Sam Darnold has become the latest and maybe the ultimate example of, like, man, you cannot judge these guys until multiple years into their careers these days. And we'll get into Sam Darnold in a little bit. But Trevor Lawrence has been inconsistent. The decision-making has been a little bit shaky, but he's on a 4-1 football team. Is it just that the circumstances around him have improved that much, or are we going to see the absolute best version of Trevor Lawrence this year as the season starts to progress and he gets comfortable in this offense? The last time we saw him on the field was on Monday night. For those of you who didn't see it, it was a hell of a performance on the game-winning drive. He ended up running for about 60 yards in this game, made some weird decisions, and had a delay of game penalty on this drive, took a sack that he perhaps didn't have to take, but made throws like this. And one of the things that has plagued this team was did he almost run? No, he didn't. Brian Thomas Jr. may have cured himself of the yips. Nice throw to De'Ami Brown here on this drive. De'Ami Brown ends up making another really good play here, I think, in the run after the catch. Oh, no, this is the incomplete pass. Could have been pass interference, but De'Ami Brown comes up here, has a really nice run after the catch. It's a tough, gritty football team, and Trevor Lawrence has a rushing attack. He has a really good defense playing on the other side of him. Obviously, clearly a pass interference on this play. But then on the final play of the game, or at least the winning play of the game for him, does it with his legs after the play breaks down. For those of you who didn't see it here, Chris Jones not that popular in Kansas City right this moment because of his just all-out ball-busting effort on this play to let the Jaguars win. There's a few things about this game that are really interesting. For one, the Seahawks have 3 cornerbacks that are injured, and the Jaguars are playing at home, place that they've had recent success, and I think that's ultimately going to end up being the difference in the game. But Brian Thomas Jr. perhaps potentially curing himself of the yips, and I'd be upset if the Texans were the ones that cured him of that when he made the game-winning catch in that game, basically, or the game that gave them the play that gave them a chance to go ahead and win that game. Travis Hunter showed up in this game offensively, had 3 receptions for 66 yards. One of them was just a beautiful competitive catch, and they're still using him heavily on defense. He's been better on defense than on offense, but this might be when it starts to click for him. The Seahawks defensive line has been good. I don't think some of the Seahawks defensive numbers don't really match up to how solid they are as a defense, including in the run game. The numbers on paper look good for the Seahawks defense in the run game. They're the 3rd best in terms of yards per game, 2nd best in terms of yards per carry, and I think top 3 in defensive EPA against the run. So that's the one big weakness that could hurt the Jaguars, because they've really been leaning on ETN in the run game, and this is probably their stiffest test they've faced all season so far. Sam Darnold. So Sam Darnold, because the Seahawks get ignored largely. They're just up there in the Pacific Northwest. I feel like when they're a good team, they don't get as much attention as they deserve. But Sam Darnold, fewest turnover-worthy plays, number 1 in EPA per play, number 1 in the PFF grading, his success rate, number 1, completion percentage over expected, number 1 in the league this year. He is playing. It's so much more than just, you can't anymore say, well, it's Kevin O'Connell and it's Justin Jefferson in Minnesota. That's why he's doing well. This is 2 years in a row now. He's been putting in a really good performance early in the year. Only been sacked 5 or 6 times. The big matchup in this game is going to be Charles Cross, the left tackle for the Seahawks, versus Josh Hines-Allen. And Josh Hines-Allen plays the majority of his snaps on the right side. So you're going to see a whole lot of Josh Hines-Allen versus Charles Cross, who was questionable early in the week with a finger or a hand. Not sure what it was. But if you look at this Jaguars defense right now, what everybody's saying that I don't buy into at all is, well, they've had a lot of takeaways. You know, they've got 11 interceptions. That's not sustainable. They've got 14 total takeaways. They can't. Sometimes people keep that up, okay? Sometimes defenses ride that all the way to the Super Bowl. Sometimes it is sustainable. Whether they get the interceptions or not, I think the important thing is that the Jaguars, without getting a bunch of sacks, are getting pressure on the quarterback, and that's creating a lot of opportunities for a defense that plays a lot of zone to pounce on poorly thrown footballs. So they're creating these opportunities. So whether you get the interceptions or not, I think the Jaguars defense is playing really well. The Seahawks have been all about the passing game more so than the run game this year. Kenneth Walker's averaging 4.9 yards per carry, but he's been kind of hot and cold. So I think Sam Darnold might genuinely be the real deal. I don't know if it's going to be enough versus this Jaguars defense at home. The other extra little wrinkle in this game is the trade for Greg Newsome. So the Jaguars traded for Greg Newsome the second, and how much does he play? How much of a factor is he in this game? They traded Tyson Campbell, and I think it's largely this was a situation where the Browns, they like Tyson Campbell, but they also don't have the money to pay Greg Newsome whatever he's going to get, so they're just going to rip this bandage off and say, we got to be in cost-cutting mode here. We can get Tyson Campbell on a cost-controlled contract for a while. Maybe the Jaguars like a little bit for what Greg Newsome can do. Greg Newsome was, mostly people thought of as a slot corner for the most part, but he's been playing on the outside this year, and I think that's where the Jaguars will play him. And then Travis Hunter is the other big wrinkle in this game, just because is he starting to click on offense? Is that for real? Is that a genuine thing? Defensively, he's been playing a lot. He's probably played better on defense than on offense, but they might throw some wrinkles at Sam Darnold with the defensive backs and with the addition of Greg Newsome. Let's see. Through 5 games, Travis Hunter's played 260 total snaps, 159 at wide receiver, and 101 at cornerback. And I haven't checked the comments yet, but I'm just absolutely positive that my microphone is actually working. Seahawks demolished the Jags. We demolished the Seahawks. That's the way I'd like it to work out. I'm going to take the Jaguars in this game just by virtue of home field advantage and the fact that the Seahawks are so banged up in their secondary. I think with Trevor Lawrence, where I look at him right now is I'm not convinced that he's yet moved on from being a first-read quarterback. I think Liam Cohen has done a really good job of giving him options, getting him open receivers. Sometimes he's accurate, sometimes he's not accurate, sometimes he's making the right decisions, sometimes he's not. The big question is always with Trevor Lawrence and a new offensive coordinator, going back to the Doug Peterson days, Doug Peterson, way back when, figured out exactly how best to use Trevor Lawrence and did it that way until teams caught on to, okay, well, this is what we can take away. This is where we can force his hand, and then there you have it. And there was a glass ceiling he couldn't rise above. I think regardless of how good Trevor Lawrence ends up being as a quarterback, right now he's in a good spot for a quarterback to be in. They've got a good rushing attack. They've got a good defense on the other side of them, and you can limit perhaps exactly how much Trevor Lawrence can hurt you. And his receivers got to stop hurting him with all of these drops. Brian Thomas Jr., probably the biggest X factor just in terms of whether his yips or his fear of going over the middle or anything else keeps showing up. Yeah, Darnold, he's playing like a number 1 overall quarterback right now. I can't figure out who's a good team in the league right now. I don't know who the hell the good quarterbacks are. There's so much parity, which is what the league wants. But it always feels, if it goes on too far like this and some teams don't start to emerge, then you just feel like this is just a trough of mediocre football. And the Jaguars are 4-1, could end up 5-1 after this game. I think Trevor Lawrence is just a sad story, a QB with a lot of talent but not coached or trained well. Yeah, I don't know, retired Rowe. At some point, a guy's got to do it on his own. I think in Houston, we're thinking the same thing with C.J. Stroud. It's hard. Oh boy, now this gets into a whole quagmire. I don't want to be in the position of blaming an offensive coordinator for 2 years in a row. And I think over these last 2 weeks, we've started to see, all right, maybe it looks like Nick Caley might be figuring some things out. D'Amico flat out said on the coaches show this week that he told Nick Caley, listen, we got to run the ball. If we're going to be running play action, you got to make the defense think that the run is an actual threat. And we've seen evidence of that where, look, it doesn't matter if you're only getting 2 yards at a carry for a chunk of time. You got to stick to the run because these play action opportunities aren't going to unfold downfield if the defense knows that you're not actually running the ball. Then you're not getting those linebackers and safeties' minds kind of grooved into having to come up and stop the run. I think Liam Cohen might be the real deal. That's what I'd be more concerned about at this point. I don't know if I wouldn't be as concerned with what the total ceiling of Trevor Lawrence is. I'd be concerned that Liam Cohen, just like Shane Steichen, really knows what he's doing on offense. And Liam Cohen already has the track record of having done it in Tampa, getting the best out of Baker Mayfield, perhaps really turning his career around to where Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, two of the best quarterbacks in the league right now, cast off by multiple teams, bad teams. You think about the saga of those quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield cast off by the Browns, ignored by the Panthers, and ends up now playing like an MVP. Sam Darnold cast off by the Jets, whatever. And the Panthers. The Vikings, a good team, but still decided to go with their draft pick, and now he's playing like the best quarterback in the league. So for anybody watching, whoever has an individual quarterback that's shown flashes or stretches of good play, it's so hard to just abandon a quarterback at any given time these days, and it does put a lot more pressure on the actual the actual coaches themselves. I think Brian Daboll, watching the way Daniel Jones playing this year, it doesn't give him a whole lot of stock to be able to blame anybody else other than himself when Shane Steichen's getting so much out of Daniel Jones. That's a whole other category. I'll do a Colts preview here today too. I'm going to try to do a couple of previews today since the Texans are off. Let's see who else has got something to say. NFL wide open this year. Yes. So thank you everybody for alerting me to the audio issues earlier on. We know that microphones are my vexation, and I appreciate it. And yet crucial. I can't ignore them. Thanks everybody. Like, subscribe.